So we coaches, we were very used to program for Dave Castro's CrossFit Games. And we somehow learn a trick here and there where things might be going to. And last year, many of us got a slap on the face and said, "Oh no, we need to do much more work than the one we were doing back then." So
yeah, I'm glad that Mads is here because I've been pretty sick for the last 2 days. So I don't have the preparation I normally have, but I think I'm going to be fine.
I think you're going to be just fine. I think you're going to be very good.
Besides, I have no idea how quarterfinals went because I couldn't watch it. So you guys have to update me. Is there anything big happening in Europe?
Matt,
I don't think anything beyond what everybody expected was or has happened, to be perfectly honest. I think the usual suspects made it through. I think there are a couple of people who are going to be super happy to get exposure on the big stage, but in all honesty, I don't think they're going to shake the house, so to speak. So yeah.
Is it like already like set, or is there some leaderboard configuration gonna be happening and somebody's getting out and getting in?
I don't know. Facundo, you look like you know something, dude.
No. I guess that this year there were a couple of movements that they were new to people. So I'm guessing that if CrossFit asks for videos and review that, they might find some challenges here and there. But that's a result of adding movements and being sometimes maybe not so specific into what they want to see. So I'm not saying that I just want to cheat, but sometimes they do stuff believing that that's correct, and suddenly it happens that it's not the case.
You talking about VUps now?
So I'm talking about VUps. I'm also talking about GHD'S because they changed the standard. I don't know if you read, Matt. And so the butt needs to be behind the pad, and they need to talk to touch overhead. With I mean, here and there are a little bit of things, and but anyways, before everything, I just want to thank you guys for doing this because I'm one of Matt's biggest fans ever, and it's true. It's true. When I started CrossFit, when I started working for CrossFit, I was actually one of my jobs was bringing Matt's coffee and food.
Really?
It's true. To his desk, he was commentator, and I was like, I started as a volunteer, and I was like, "Do you want a coffee? Do you want? No, they give me." I cannot name brands, but that was my job. Yeah.
When was that?
That's like Tim. I'll be honest with you. So that's probably what he thought he was going to be doing. It ended up being that I was asking Facundo about everything under the sun because he knew a lot more than I did. So instead, we drank coffee, and I got smarter.
No. I mean, we love each other very much, so we're going to be throwing roses the whole day. But the truth is, that I was the volunteer for Matt and whoever else was commentating with him, and it was maybe more 10 years ago now, maybe more.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and so it's happy to see him as handsome.
Was that at a European regional? Should have been done.
That was in Denmark back in the old days.
Back in the old days, when nobody had thought about doing GHD sit-ups and slapping the ground behind him like this, everybody was going like that. So yeah.
10 years ago, man.
I'll tell you something even more maybe graphic. When making a strict handstand push-up was a massive skill.
God, yeah. Or a rope climb.
Well, that was other level.
Anybody under the bus, but they're
a normal rope climb or a
regular rope climb. Just a regular rope climb.
They're hard. Yeah. They're hard. Handstand push-ups are hard.
Yes.
I feel like handstand push-up, like strict ones, are still like a major game changer in the normal population gym. Like if you walk into a box and you have that, you're gonna be better than 60-70% of the members.
Yeah. I don't know, Facundo. I mean, Facundo's hanging out at Mayhem.
Depends. Yeah, I was gonna say depends on the box you're going to. If they're all savages like in Mayhem, that's not the case, of course.
So Mayhem, we do a lot of that. We do handstand GHD'S, and rope climbs every single day. Kind of. It's our
every hour.
You know, we do that of a warm up.
Every other hour we do that. Yeah, but 10 years, man. How did you originally stumble into CrossFit?
Me or Mads? Mads created CrossFit. Me.
This is all about you, brother. This is all about you.
No. So I was I used to work in politics. I worked for the European Parliament for 16 years. And now I can say it because it was so long that I think that if I committed a crime, it might have prescribed by now. But I used my influence in the parliament to get tickets to see the Invitational in Berlin. And then I met who is now the director of the games, Justin Berg. And one thing led to the other one. And then I kind of begged for a volunteer position for next year's regionals in Denmark, and I got that. So that's how it all started.
Berlin, that was pretty good. That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah. That was fun. That was when the Americans had to find out that the rest of the world beat him in their own sport. And I remember a lot of angry faces.
Man,
that's interesting. That's interesting that you say it in their own sport. Like, do you feel that's changing these years? Do you feel? I have the feeling like Europe is really coming, and if you zoom into Europe, like Norway is really coming this year, I think. Do you think that's changing the landscape of that's an American sport?
I think that it's changed, and I think that this year we might see maybe a Russian, can you imagine, in the scope of how the world is going now, a Russian at the top of the podium, maybe an Australian, for the first time, an Australian male, an American. I mean, the chances are all open. A Canadian. In terms of the females, I think that, European girls have shown that they know what they do in the sport.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great year, I guess. I mean, this is the first year maybe without Tia competing, with a lot of changes in terms of the program. It's going to be Bosman's second year as a programmer for the games. So we coaches, we were very used to program for Dave Castro's CrossFit Games. And we somehow learn a trick here and there where things might be going to. And last year, many of us got a slap on the face. And said, "Oh no, we need to do much more work than the one we were doing back then." So I'm looking forward to see what this year is going to give.
Is it really that different, like Bosman programming?
Mads?
I'd say yes. I mean, let's put it this way, and don't get me wrong, I'm not smart in any way, shape, or form, but just like Facundo, I've kind of been along for the ride for a while. And it used to be that we'd have this thing at the box where it's like, let's guess what the open workouts are going to be. And let's start guessing when it comes to semifinals or whatever we call them. Let's guess what they're going to be. And I usually always had like one or two right. This year, no, sir. Not at all. It's like, there you go. Just disappeared. So yeah, no, not at all. And like Facundo says, it's like, you need to start going through like the CrossFit journals and like what we used to talk about at the first level ones to kind of get an impression of what could possibly show up, like the crossovers. Oh, we talked about them before, but nobody ever did them. Same thing with the wall walks. It's like one of those things that, it's like, I don't know. I think it's awesome. I think it's nice. I think there is and Facundo, this is going to be interesting to hear what you think about this. I think it's nice because I think, as you said, we were programming towards Dave Castro. And even though Dave did an amazing job at what he did, loved it, I still think that it was like, you could kind of see what was going to happen and you kind of had an idea what was going to happen. And I think the usual suspects usually got away with being the usual suspects. Now with with BOS programming, I think we saw it at the games that it was way more open, a lot longer for a lot more athletes, and I thought that was interesting. How do you feel about that?
I felt, I mean, it is clear to me that Bosman wants to go back to the sources, to the very, this, Mads can describe it better than me, this virtuosism kind of CrossFit in which, skills play a very important role. It's not just lifting heavy or running fast, but skills seem to be very high up in his agenda. And there were many workouts last year that I loved. They were great workouts. The problem with that for me is implementation of these workouts, because skills required a very high craft judge to be able to, to evaluate whether that's correct or not. And then we come to another thing. You can make these workouts very skillful, but you also need to be able to have standards very, very clear, and judges that are able to foreseen, or just seen actually what the test is about. And I think that in that aspect, hopefully some of last year's, little problems here and there are solved, and we are able to see more virtuosism or more high skill movements. But it's and Mads, I would like to see what you think here. I think it's a very dangerous path, because CrossFitters, they are amazing athletes because they can adapt so fast to whatever, right? You just telling you need to do that 5 minutes. Even if they do it wrong, they'll do it. Nobody says, no, that's too dangerous for me. I've never did it before. I don't think that I'll pass. No, they all take 5 minutes, 10, and they'll go for whatever. However, when you expose or you require athletes to do this, high level skills, a good CrossFitter will try to find a shortcut to get there. Because, it doesn't matter how good I do it, I just need to do it. And in these shortcuts, then technical problems will arise. And then you set a standard for the community of doing something that might not be the most technical way. And, you create a vicious circle into, yes, I can do it, but it's not very technical. And and if it's not technical, it's not efficient. And you're more prone to, to being injured about it. So, our job at the moment, coaches, to convince our athletes that technique is the number one thing. And if you're able to deal and manage and, and get away with high levels technique, or, you are going to be able to do whatever. But athletes, sometimes I want to lose time investing in, planches or holes, or even, hollow rocks. And they are very basic.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a double, a very complex situation at the moment with this. Mads, what do you think?
No,
I think so too. Sorry, Mads.
I'm sorry. No, but I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the challenge isn't the best athlete. So Roman isn't going to be a problem. You know what I mean? And Tia, before she was pregnant, and probably about 35 seconds after she's delivered her baby, that won't be a problem. But I think the second tier, the ones who are potentially going to be the next ninjas, right? They're the ones who are going to get hurt, because they don't feel like they have that time. It's like, oh, I need to snatch, and I need to snatch 120 because that's what I'm going to need for whatever. And then, they want to try to shortcut it all the way there. Technique may not be that good, but strength is, and the ability to develop power through the middle is going to be able to get him 120 kilo snatch. But it's not a snatch that's sustainable over time. And when it comes to these skills, just like you were saying, Facundo, it's like shortcutting it, yeah, because I want to be a competitive athlete tomorrow, not in 6 months. So I think the next step, that's where you kind of really need to hold on. Fortunately, Facundo is first of all super knowledgeable. Secondly, the nicest guy in the world, and so athletes are probably going to listen to him. And also, fortunately, I don't coach people on that level anymore, so we're good. I think we're in good hands. But I think the important thing is, if you don't have the confidence of a Facundo or somebody else, then you probably may be hesitant to kind of engage an athlete and say, okay, so we're just going to dial you back a second because you need to do this and this and this. Whereas you just go, okay, cool, let's do that instead. And now you're breaking a perfectly capable racehorse. So yeah. For those of you guys who don't know it, I'm just going to say it. Facundo has been a part of Power Factor the Power Factory way back, some of the like the OGs in Europe, right? Facundo was there. Facundo's on the Power Monkey as well. He was there. Facundo's done CrossFit Endurance. He was there. Facundo's been with with Mayhem now. And so there is nothing in this space that this man has not touched and not just been a part of as like, hey, sure, let me bring you a cup of coffee. More like been a part of making it what it is today. So if anybody out there is like, why are we talking to this dude? This is why. The house that you're currently in, he was a part of building it. So yeah, and he's probably never going to take credit for it because he's just too nice.
No. I think that we all trying to steal. I mean, I think that there's a lot of work to be done still. That's why I mean, I think that Rich can take credit because now he retired and he did everything he wanted to do, and he did it great. And yes, and going back to that, the other day I was talking to another coach that has an athlete that was doing the quarterfinals, and I've realized too that we are, and Mads, I mean, you come also from a long time where this relation was very different. It's a time where the athletes have so much power that you as a coach need to be very, very sure that you have your shoes well tied in order to make yourself heard.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stardomship now with athletes, and I see it when you go to semifinals, to the game over and over, and you see athletes struggling with the same elements. And me and Matt come from a time where if you messed up a workout the following year, it was deadlift. You did deadlift the whole year just to prove the following year that you improved. Rope climb, deadlift, whatever it was. Nowadays, you have these very, very high-ranked athletes with the same struggles. And, of course, there might be a physiological element in which people are encouraged to do this or that, but there's a big chunk of athletes. And I realized that it's not easy for a coach nowadays to, deal with, not all of them, but some athletes that have so much power in the space. They have like good money from sponsors and their obligations towards their sponsors and their audiences. And, you are doing a private session and they come with a photographer because they needed a TikTok or an Instagram reel. And, that private space of working and being frustrated or learning or, it's very random nowadays.
It is.
It's not very common.
That's interesting. I have two things like you guys talking like that. What you just said, Facundo, like, or immediately in my mind it pops up this thing where Josh Bridges couldn't do the deadlifts at 405, I think, and the next year he was crushing regionals, like, and it seems like he had done like deadlifts all year long. So, but I haven't thought about like ego coming in play. That's really interesting.
Even more so, I mean, Rich Froning lost his first championship because of a rope climb. He couldn't do a rope climb. And, and that might be the reason why we do rope climbs today. Everybody at Mayhem, because that cannot happen, and then he walked for a little bit in triple three. That was, what's the name? Right? Triple three. And, even though he won, the only thing that people talk about that year is like he walked for a couple of 100 meters. And he went back, and now he's one of the greatest runners and swimmers on there is in the CrossFit the CrossFit world at the moment. So but
and these are game changer moments, right? These are game changing moments. Like if you approach it right and you attack this problem, it's game changing. Like for example, Catherine, she failed the rope climbs. Next year she was a champ because she attacked it.
Yeah, for sure. And but as I said before, I think that there are so many elements that come to play nowadays. They have their lives, I said before, their sponsors, their obligations, and sometimes these things take time, and it's not as sexy as snatching your 90% every single week, or back in our days was how many unbroken pull-ups could you do? Remember, man? 51, I can do 53. Wow, Spirit did 90. That was the things that matter back then. And nowadays, the sport grew so much that the things that matter to me are, on the one hand, having athletes that are really proficient in the technical aspect, because when you are that good, you can adapt, you can transfer that to anything. And on the other hand, something that Matt was very clever, at least in inspiring me, and I really mean it, is to be curious, to be willing to learn, and to be clever. You know, I think that the reason why Rich, Tia, Matt, they always won, not just because they were the fittest, but they were by far the most clever and skillful athletes on the field. And I always think, and have the chance to work with Rich for many years now, I always feel that when they see a workout that they never saw before, you know, like mathematicians, they see a lot of things flying in the skies that we don't see, but they understand it, and they, you know, they will put whatever they have to their best use to get the work done the possible way. And that's a champion, that's a competitor. And we don't have so many of that today, I think.
Yeah, and they have the humility to go to several places and go to other coaches and like take that information in and work on it. Like a few weeks ago, I had the strength coach of Andre Odeon, and he was telling me that he was so impressed with Andre because he basically, when they first talked, he saw that Andre is doing like all this crazy volume of stuff, and he was telling him, "Oh, that's not gonna work. If you're working on your strengths, you have to dial back this and that, and it's not gonna work." And he thought that Andre is gonna say, "Okay, then goodbye." But he was telling him, "Okay, I do that. I trust you for 1 year, and we see how it goes." So that's commitment and humility.
I think for sure. And you as a coach need to be prepared, you know, to answer all of those questions quickly to build that confidence. Because if I do that and then someone asks me and I don't know what to answer over and over, of course they're like, well, I better go to someone who gives me a proper answer, you know, quickly at least. But yes, it's you know, that's one of the reasons that I'm very happy of being able to work at Mayhem. There are so many great athletes that nobody has an ego. Because if you're doing a workout and it's a heavy barbell, of course you know that Guy is going to win. If you put a machine workout, you know that Roman is going to tear the place apart. If you do a 25-minute workout, Haley is going to, you know, be doing her nails, finish the work, and people are still going to be working out. So they all know that they have their, you know, strong and weak points, and they respect very much because they said, well, I can win this one, but I'm not going to be able to win that other workout. So there is a very, I mean, I think that Rich was very clever in creating a space with a lot of humbleness and respect to the other ones. So they know that they have to work, and that's what they do.
What is it that you do at Mayhem, for those who don't know?
For those that I don't know myself, nobody knows. No. So at Mayhem, Mayhem had our incredible program, Mayhem Compete, and Mayhem Everyday Athlete and competitor. But a couple of years ago, I had been working with Rich as a coach of his team, and he asked me to create an individualized program for elite athletes. So we created that, and at the moment, I'm director of the individual programming for Mayhem and of Mayhem International. So all the athletes that are not American, and everything we do with Mayhem outside of the States falls into things that I will be doing. And of course, it's a great job and a great responsibility, and I'm doing my very best to be at the level that is expected of me.
It feels like you're doing pretty good, to be perfectly honest. But I don't mean to ever ask an uncomfortable question. So if you interpret it as such, please say so, and then I'll state it differently. No, but my question is this. So you guys have an amazing program. You have amazing athletes. You have an amazing place to be. So it's like everybody who goes in there, it's like you find this community of a bunch of humble athletes that are incredibly capable. So let's say that you have an athlete and they're doing pretty well, and they reach out to you and they're like, hey, I'm working with XYZ right now, but I'm kind of tickled by this whole thing. I want to be a part of this community. How do you deal with that with other coaches? Would you like call that person up and go, you know what, XYZ just reached out to me, just want you to know? Or is it more like, we're fine with letting you in, but you're going to have to deal with that person over there because we don't want to get in any kind of trouble. Like, how does that work? Because there is a migration of people in the community, and I'm just thinking that that's hard to deal with.
I thought you're going to give me a very hard question, Matt. I mean,
This is a hard
you're so
question.
polite. I was expecting like no. I mean, athletes are individuals that they lead and live their lives very independently from the coach. So in my case, if someone reaches to me that isn't another coach with another coach, I mean, I didn't have a lot of that. But I think that is first of all, an athlete's choice or responsibility to be, graceful enough to talk to his former coach or the coach he wants to leave and say, hey, bro, brother, father, mother, whatever, this is not working for me, or I'm not even that. You can say, I'm looking to have a new stimuli, and I need to make some adjustment, and I want to try this or that. And then if the athletes tell me, oh, can you talk to my coach because I want you to, I gladly do it. But for example, I did work with Saxon Panchik for a while. And then when both of us started to be in a different space, and we realized that we were looking for different things, so we have different priorities. I told him, Shane is a great coach, and I know him very, very well. So you should reach to Shane. And then I talked to Jane and said, Shane, this guy, and this, I even gave him a little bit of the idea of the work we have been doing together with Saxon for a while. And now he's there, and I think he's doing great. So I think that is when there's respect and honesty, you should be accepting everything, because sometimes things work or sometimes things don't. So, but it's about, and it's something that we talked with back even years ago with Mads. It's very much about grace. If you're graceful enough, you can get away with almost anything. I remember nights after regionals with Mads having dinner and talking about, that's a biatch, or that's a bad person, and that, and I remember very well, I will never say the name, but he said to me, oh, because that person doesn't have any grace. And he didn't say he has no fitness or no, manners or no this. I remember very well, he said, oh, she doesn't have any grace, so bro, you cannot expect anything from her. And it's just about that, no? It's just, there's a way of living life elegantly, and I think that makes a difference.
And I think it goes both ways as well. I remember that. Who I'm talking about? I remember that conversation very well.
Okay.
I think we've had it a couple of times, but I think this particular one was in Madrid. But I think it goes both ways as well. Where I think as a coach, and this is, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I think as a coach is like, you provide a service and you provide a solution to a challenge this athlete has. At some point, you should be fine with that athlete moving on and finding different solutions to that challenge. I think that's perfectly normal. And whenever that happens, I think that's when it comes down to just the grace of being, coach could say, I can't teach you anymore. To be perfectly honest, I'm flying by the wire right now. Are you happy with that? If the athlete goes, hey, cool, no problem, I love this. Chaos theory, it's all about, it's what I do. So just go ahead, right? Or if they go, okay, cool, I'm just going to look somewhere else. Or if the athlete comes up, knocks on your door and goes, you know what, we've done this for a year, I'm going to look for something else now. Then, you should be able to high five and chest bump each other. And next time you meet at a competition, go have a, Coke and a smile and the high fives and chest bumps. I just think a lot of coaches in this space right now have a tendency to think that it's about them and not about the service that they provide. And I think that's heartbreaking when athletes get caught in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I have to talk about. I need to defend my coaches, my fellow coaches now a little bit, Matt. But what I do feel is that also, especially in the case of individual athletes, very often I believe that they have a very strong feeling of self-entitlement, and that is where sometimes things gets a bit rough for the coach, you know, because but you can see, but I'm also a person, you know, and I also have my life and I also have my family. I remember it's a funny story, and the guy will of course apologize. The day after my second the daughter was born, an athlete said to me, "Oh, you know what? I have a lot of." I even posted the picture on Instagram. I'm a father again, and so on and so on. And I got, you know, people saying, "No, congrats." However, yesterday, you know, my back hurts a lot. Can you change the workout for me today? Because I don't think that I should be doing pulling from the floor. And I was like, "Hey, bro, I just had a daughter. I'm in the hospital now." Yeah, but it can take you only 5 minutes, you know. No,
Wow.
you know, and I don't think that they believe that they did it on a very egoistic, you know, aspect, but they just don't realize. They just so you know, drawn by the work they have to do and the life they lead, that they very often don't realize that there are things that people are doing for them that also have value, more than maybe isolation. And you know, and one of the things that I hate about is like creating dependent athletes who, in case that the coach doesn't say, well, change it for this, they are unable to do it themselves. You know, that's for me the worst thing about coaching is I really don't want to be a coach who nurtures dependency towards me or towards a coach. You know, I'm at the games and I'm not doing much, to be honest. All the job, all the work's been done before. We can talk about little things here and there, but I'm not like, now you do 3 burpees and now you do warm up. No, bro, you've been having a year working together, so you should know very well how to warm up for this specific workout. I
think no, but I agree with you 100%. I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting I think it's interesting when people stop realizing what it is that they're actually buying on the other side. It's like, hey, you can own me 24 hours a day, no problem, but here's what you're going to have to pay for that. Are you able to do so? You know, and the obvious answer is always going to be no. Nobody's going to be able to do that.
Exactly. But you know that I actually had that same conversation even with I didn't say 24, I say 16. This is double shift in European times, you know. And I said, well, if you don't want me to take any other athletes, then, you know, pay me what I will be earning by coaching all of these people, and then we might be able to talk. Yeah, that wasn't the case.
How many athletes are you like coaching?
Sorry?
How many athletes do you have on your roster coaching?
Well, you know, if I have to say all the people following Mayhem, I can say many thousands, but it's not the case. I mean, so at Mayhem, we are 3 main coaches. So Rich, Jake Lockhart, and myself. We just had the chance to bring a new coach in who is extraordinary guy, Jake Foster. And so I take fully on certain athletes. So I take the lead, as Rich says, on athletes like Roman, Lazar, and many others. But if I have a specific need, I would say maybe to Rich or to Jake, hey, bro, this is where I am now. Take a look at it, and maybe you can have an input on that. And I also provide a lot of the endurance for most of the CrossFit Mayhem elite athletes. So you know, I don't know why I would like to do not so much endurance, but people like it when I do that. So I'm an altruistic there.
It's the problem with knowing everything, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just give me a run. I want to row. I want to bike. And
but my question goes in the direction, like, do you think there's a limit of people you can like really work with not diminishing your quality?
I think, well, yeah, of course, for everything there's a limit, right? And especially for me, probably. But no, I would say that, you know, and I think that Mats would understand very well this. I think we coaches, we relate to our athletes also by the amount of satisfaction and that we have from them. If we have people that are, you know, really hardworking and they are very committed and very responsible and take a lot of ownership, of course, many of us, at least me, we are prone to give more of myself because I know that there's a feedback. And so I admire those people so much that, I will do my very, very best to be at the level of their level of commitment. For example, Lazar, that's a guy that is without any doubt, one of the fittest competitors in the CrossFit world. I know you had in the show, and his brother. And, he's a very clever guy. And it requires a lot of time out of me because, he really wants to be not in charge, but he wants to understand all the process that he's going through while training. And, it's not just, okay, that's the workout. Talk to you next week. There's a lot of time that is invested in this relationship. And because of the kind of person he is, I'm happy to have the chance to invest time there. So yeah, I'm sure there's a limit. I haven't found it yet. I think maybe it's a good answer. No?
But do you think how much of a coach's job, Facundo, do you think is I'll just be neutral and ask the question. How much of a coach's job is the psychological welfare of the athletes, and how much do you think is actually sitting down and coming up with these exquisite ways of providing different stimulus?
I'll tell you 51% is psychological.
Yeah.
If I understand, what drives, I think that being a competitor is very miserable. I will never be able to do it. I mean, go there on an arena competing with a lot of people that for sure they are stronger, better, more clever, more handsome, whatever, taller than me. And, being at the risk of not being at their level. And they say, yeah, the last one gets the whole applause. It's true. But then you also get the misery. You're the worst of them all, at least in that workout, right? So being there requires, it's not for everybody. And people that choose to be a competitor, they have a certain drive that puts them there or drives them to be there. If I as a coach understand what's the drive that makes them do all this effort to be there, I think that I will be able to take the best out of them. If I can motivate it to the drive, I always give this example, and I think that I talked with Matt. I mean, we know many athletes, many athletes very well. And, there are many athletes who are there just for the money. And it's great. There's no critical. If you're really, really good and it's like, okay, I'm going to beat my body up, but I'm going to end with a lot of money in my pocket. That's fine. So will that athlete train the same way if he's going for a competition where there's no money involved? Where they used to, remember the times where they used to get a protein shake or a pair of shoes or not even shoes, socks. Back in the days, you go to competition and you get shoes or protein shake or a kilogram, creatine or whatever it was. If there's a person who was a fat boy in school and bullied, and he realizes that, oh, CrossFit is for me, and I'm training that person, and and then said, hey, come on, fatty, keep moving. I'm not going to get the best out of him for sure. No. So I need to understand, at least me, Facundo, needs to understand what they want to do there in order to create a space for us to work together. And then, yes, you can be a bit cute and clever and come up with nice equations of, type of adaptations and understanding this and that. But, I can do, somebody can be a great programmer. If you don't understand what is the athlete doing, I'm not sure it's going to work for that person.
Is that like a huge game changer for Roman this year? Because he has this psychological component out of the way where he has to think, or will I even make it to the games, even if I qualify?
I will say that this is going to be Roman's special year, because up till now, Roman has been dealing with, the frustration or the possible frustration of not being able to go to the games. Then when he finally moved to the States, his wife was pregnant in Russia, and he had a child that he hadn't seen until the boy was 5-6 months. So he was never being able to train fully, focus on training itself. There's something in his life always that, prevent him to be fully 100% on that. At Mayhem, he seems to be very happy. They had their own house. He even brought his dogs from Russia. So the whole family came, 2 dogs. Leon, the son, loves it there. The wife is there. So I think it's the first time that he can, focus 100%. Hopefully the results, makes that, shows that. But yes, Roman is also a very demanding athlete, in a good sense. It's not like you do, okay, coach, I do. I mean, he knows what he wants to do. He knows he sometimes complain a lot. I mean, when he doesn't like a lot of volume, because he knows when he does something, he does it so well that he doesn't need to do a lot, because whatever is done to 100%, not intensity, but the purpose of what he was supposed to do. So therefore, you can minimize the time he spends there. But sometimes it's like, hey, coach, Roman, no legs. Roman, very tired. No, do this today. And they say, oh, Roman, but you need to do that because... So there's always a negotiation there. And yeah, it's we'll see. I mean, it's a great attitude to be able to work with.
Oh, man. At the beginning, you were telling us that you worked at the European Parliament. I was just, my mind went there with, originally I was going to ask you, like, how do you steal all our, like, great European athletes and bring them to Mayhem? But
well, I mean, Lazar is here. Lazar is in Serbia, and he's also in France. His girlfriend lives there, so he goes there very often. And, I mean, I don't steal and they come, huh? I just want to set the record. They just come on their own, people pay for the open. You're miserable while you're doing them, but they pay for it. So it's, it's the same thing. No, but, I have been I have been very lucky to have the chance to invest a lot of the time of Mayhem for South America lately. I'm from South America, originally from Argentina. And, Europeans and North American people, athletes, they always have a lot of opportunities. Here, this is not a problem somehow. You can, more or less, things can be granted to you. There are other regions in the world where that's not the case. And coming from one of those places, my dream was to say, okay, what if I can create a bridge into people that have different opportunities, bring them to Mayhem, train with some of the best people on the field, but then they won't have an excuse. If you don't do it, if you don't make it to be there, you cannot complain anymore because the chances were given to you. You had the chance to go and train with Rich and doing this and doing that and live in an environment where, where champions are. Now, if you were taken out of there, given that chance, and you are unable to do it, then it's not about opportunities for you. It's just like maybe you are not hardworking enough or you're not good enough. But for me, this element of opportunities is now a responsibility. And I know that I'm speaking a lot, but so I think one of the most incredible things about Mads, and I say it because you threw me so many roses, he says, I don't coach athletes anymore and so on. But
I have to see if there are like a roses emoji I can like I can throw in when you guys.
But you know what? I mean, without people like him that we had the chance to see and to work with, many of us would not have been inspired enough as to want to learn more about this sport. These people that, level 1 coaches, and especially people like Mads, who are very generous in sharing his time there it is. But it's very in sharing his time, there's someone who you don't know at all and start asking you questions over and over and over. And he says, okay, I'm going to answer all of them. That's giving people opportunities to learn. And that is showing to people that, I met this guy that was so cool and he knows so much that I just want to be like him. And that is what people like Mads contribute. Maybe he doesn't want to be a coach anymore for high-level athletes, but he ignites the flame of many coaches to learn more and to become what, or at least try to become, what many have in their heads, great coach, or, coaching this. So I think that it comes to a point where the sport gave us so much that we are also responsible for creating opportunities for other people. And that's, I, as I said before, I started as a volunteer, drinking coffee, bringing coffee and having a lot of fun. And then I met Mads, and he taught me, shared his knowledge with me. And then I met Dave Durant, and he invited me to Power Monkey, and then he gave me a job as an assistant. And then I met Chris Hinshaw, and he did the same. And then I met Rich, and he said, okay, maybe let's give this little Argentinian guy a chance, and let's see how he deals with it. And it's just about that. And now I feel that we are responsible to give back and to create opportunities for people that are where we started.
How much of a problem is the language barrier?
For me?
For the athletes, like example for like Roman, like coming to Mayhem, I guess he speaks a little bit of English now, but like when you talk about like bridging that gap in these regions, like I see that's a big problem, because I had Anil Akai on, and he's on the training culture, and they basically have all of their athletes are Spanish speaking. They have like this one girl from Argentina, but she's also Spanish speaking. And he told me that this is a big problem for them, because non-Spanish speaking athletes are going to their team. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not like Matt. Matt speaks 17 languages. I only speak 5.
17.
I don't speak Russian. I don't speak Russian though, but
you speak 5 languages? Man.
Ja.
And he speaks them well.
Können wir auf Deutsch sprechen eigentlich heute? Aber ich wusste nicht, dass der Mats war hier.
Na, also wir können uns auf Deutsch unterhalten. Geht auch.
Können wir auf Deutsch?
Now you guys, jetzt tut er mich total outfreaken. You're freaking me out now.
No, so yeah, I mean, we don't have that limit at Mayhem. Roman, I mean, he will not write a novel in English, but he's clever enough as to, spend the time to work in understanding things that are important for him to understand in order to train or to perform. So he's a clever guy. And I think, I think that last year, when I started working with him last year, I realized that, I mean, there might have been a big chance of Roman winning the game last year. Would he have understood the workouts very well? Because Roman, I believe, I mean, not disrespect to Justin or to anybody else, makes so many mistakes last year at the games. So many mistakes. There were a lot of no reps, a lot of things where he didn't know where to go. And I have to say, going to the CrossFit Games is not easy. It's not like going to a competition around the corner. You need to be there at 6:15. If you're 1 minute later, the bus left, and then you disqualify, and you need to warm up 1 hour before. Then you need to walk 1K in order to go to the second warm-up area, where you're going to wait for another 40 minutes to make one lift, and so on and so on. And it's a very complex space to be in, and I think that Roman, maybe last year he was a bit overwhelmed by everything around him, and I hope that this year he's better prepared for that.
It was his rookie year. It didn't felt like that, but it was his rookie year.
Yeah. He's a very, very well-rounded athlete.
That's interesting.
But so is Lazar. So there are many. So Roman, I think that there is a lot of pressure for him to show how great he is. But there's a lot of great athletes working in the dark, as I say now. You don't know what they're doing. I think that maybe Mats can say something about it. I think there's also a number of coaches that are very proficient. I think that before there were very few ones. I was talking to Rich the other day about coaches and so on, and then he told me I cannot say the name, but he reached to a coach that is still on the CrossFit world in 2010 to become his coach, and that person said, "Oh no, bro, sorry, I don't have time for you." And it was supposed to be. I know. You know
Rich
him very
who?
well.
No, I can train you.
And yeah, and there was a time. Do you remember Chapman? It was not him. During those these are the very first coaches of the CrossFit world. So it was not him, but there was another coach, and Rich reached to him and said, "Hey, I need a coach, some guidance." "No, bro, I'm sorry. No,
Wow.
I don't have time." And yeah, you know.
This is the same guy who sold all his Apple stock at the same time. And who thought he thought the internet was a fad. And no, I was just kidding.
Internet, that's not gonna be a thing.
No.
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, but again, I think there's a lot of great coaches. There's a lot of great colleagues of ours doing a great job nowadays. Yeah, there's a lot of very hardworking athletes. So there's nothing granted nowadays. Nothing.
I think you're spot on. I think there are a lot of athletes or a lot of coaches right now who are doing a great job with their athletes. I think the biggest challenge for a lot of these coaches is the infrastructure. So I'm doing a great job with 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 athletes, whatever. And that's great. But I don't have the infrastructure of adding external competence into the programming. And I think that's probably a challenge. And also when it comes to going to the games, going to Rogue Invitational, going to all of those different things, there is an infrastructure that comes along with it. So even though the first year is always going to be learning how that experience works, there is something else. And I think what you have and what Mayhem have is an abundance of experience of exposing athletes to an environment like that. So when they show up, they feel like they're still in a comfortable place. We've all seen athletes that just act like chickens with no heads when they get there. It's like, could you please just dial it in? We're going to go do some fitness here. And they're just like, they're all over the place. I think that's one of the things you have, along with the tremendous amount of knowledge. It's the infrastructure of being able to add specific competences, but also giving an infrastructure when people show up at these big shows. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's true. On the one hand, Rich's presence is very overwhelming. Some people are like, they see him, and I don't know, Rich is such a personality. Mats know him very well too, that you're always sitting up tall. You never want to, not even curve your ear or whatever. But at the end of the day, Mats, I think it's right. There's a big infrastructure, supporting athletes at Mayhem, but it's just a lot of work. There's no this glamour that you believe that there exists there. It's just you get there. Roman, for example, gets there at 8:30 in the morning. He does his session. He has a bit of a team he works with. That's all his job. Goes back home, has food, plays with his son, comes back. Everybody has their time, and it's just work. Nobody is there playing or fooling around. There's not very I wouldn't say well seen, but there's not why people are there. No. Now Haley, is taking her year off. I have never seen a harder working athlete as Haley Adams. She is so extraordinary and such a hardworking girl. And you will see her at Mayhem, and it was just work, and she was amazing. And it's just what we do, just work very, very cleverly and consistently and in the most responsible manner.
I was so happy to see Haley take time off. It just absolutely it warmed my heart. Don't get me wrong, it's not like, hey, I don't want to see her and I hope something happens. It was more like, I want to see Haley for the next decade, being a force of nature and doing what she needs to do. And to kind of realize that in order to do that, I need to maybe take some time off to dial some things in and not have external pressure at the same time as I continue to work as hard as I've ever done. I think and once again, we're not going to mention any names, but I think that some of the other male and female, predominantly female, young athletes that are coming up right now, they're so tightly wound that it's just going to take one thing that derails them a little bit, and they're just going to come unwound completely. And that scares the crap out of me. Which is why when I saw Haley, I was just like, oh, girl, you're doing it right. I'm sorry, no, we can't swear on the podcast, but she's like, that made me really happy that she was addressing some of these things. And if I was her competitors, I'd be scared for the future. Somebody who's that dialed in, that's going to be scary.
Yeah, I mean, she started so young. I mean, she's 22. She went to the games 8 times already. I mean, like,
That's insane. That's insane.
She, yeah, 7 times. Sorry, it's really crazy, and I think I mean, she's one of my best friends, and I always love her. But with this decision, I admire her more than what I did admire before. It's so healthy to be able to say, okay, I'm living through these things, and I need to solve these issues before I continue leading this very demanding life.
Yeah.
And, the amount of courage you need to have in order to come up to the wall and share that, your struggle. She said that she was struggling with some nutrition issues and so on. And at that age, where everybody's posting their 1 RM snatch or how beautiful they are on the new thing. I said, no, bro, I have something to say. I'm going through things that are not good for me, and I need to solve the things before I can go back to it. Man, I mean, it's set a new trend, which is like honesty and like majesty or royalty. I don't know how you say it, because when you have the courage and the values to do that, that puts you in another level.
Yeah.
That puts you in another level. So she's working hard, and we'll see how she comes back. And if she comes back, she will. But yeah.
Remember when Kristen Holter came out and said that she had a mental coach, and we were all just like, excuse me, what? And then the next year, she just got better than she was before, and she was pretty awesome to start with. And she's like, she's got better and better and better and better, and she keeps on saying the same thing. She's been on a TV show in Norway now. She's given out a book, and she was on this news channel as well. And she's just saying it. She's like, I can train as much as I want to, but the mental part of this and balancing my life versus everything else has just been incredibly important to me, and also how I deal with adversity. And I just think it's insane the way that she did that. So no, just crazy.
And she is a very graceful athlete,
Yes.
Christine Holt. It's incredible that she's not around anymore. No, it's really.
She is. She is building the Kriegers
on the competition floor. I mean, like, because she was the kind of people you want to bump into. Because she's such a sweet, elegant, great little person in a good sense, right? She's more like
I think she lives on the competition floor with all the Norwegians.
Yeah. I saw her at Rogue last year at the games, and I asked her, do you miss it? No, I'm so happy where I am now.
No.
And we met her on her first years. I first met her in 2013. And actually, when I started working with CrossFit, my first job with CrossFit was to write articles on upcoming athletes. And the second person that I wrote on was on Kristen Holte before she made it to the games. I think she's been a great actress in our sport.
She's gonna be a mother now.
Person. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. She's gonna be a mother now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, how are your days now, Mads? What are you up to these days?
Dude, I've gotten myself an adult job. So every day, 4 a.m., get up. I get into Nordic, work out before heading off to work, and then I work all day. And then after that, I go home and I try to be the best dad I can to Rasmus, who's 16 now, which is crazy, and try to be a good husband to Jenny, as good as I can, because we both know that I'm batting out of my league there a bit. So,
how tall is Rasmus?
He's 183 now.
Okay, because I remember I saw him once and he was already like very tall.
Yes, I am. He's I don't know. I'm still convinced that he's not really my kid, because he's athletic, he's nice, and so yeah. But as long as he's doing well, I'm thinking I'm just going to keep taking credit for it.
Are you going to be in Berlin, Mads?
I hope so. The plan is to go. I haven't heard anything from CrossFit of whether I'm going to be working or not, but my plan is to go anyways because we've got a couple of people that I want to see. You being one of them.
Yeah, thank you. And we have dinner again, like last year in
as
in
always.
Yeah. Who's going to win? Do you already know how many spots will Europe get after the strength of field on quarterfinals? I think some people already make the math.
Really?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything yet. No,
I haven't heard it yet too. But what do you say? Will this be the most crazy and best European competition in CrossFit history? 60 athletes.
Look, Berlin 2018 was amazing. Remember, Matt? It was really an incredible show in Velodrome. One of the best ever competitions that I and actually it was Roman's first competition. I think that I have to be very honest. I find it very challenging to see how that is going to be. My only concern about this is that I would like to see fitness measure also in different time domains. And to me, seeing 60 athletes in 3 days of competition means, unless CrossFit has a plan to solve that the workouts might be too short. Yes. You know, and I'm just not scared for my athletes, no, just scared for, I think that fitness, of course, you might have a sprint and it's sexy and it's great and a 1RM or whatever, I know, but fitness should be also, you know, measured in terms of endurance or cardiovascular, whatever it was.
With 60 athletes, it's going to be hard, like getting people like an hour on a treadmill.
Yeah, and I think that I was very surprised to see that Willie George didn't make the cut. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
he didn't make the. I think that I'm sure he's
the first workout like really hit him. Like he was like 400 something in that, and then he was not gonna make it back. But I think I was gonna ask, because you told at the beginning that the programming really matter at these stages, but I don't think that's the limiting factor on him in this workout. I think that's his shoulder still, like he was recovering.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that result represents at all Willie. I mean, he might not have won this workout, and he's such a fierce competitor. So I'm sure that something happened. And you know, it's very cruel. These competitions are, you work the whole year, and you need to perform in 2.5 days. Everything. There's no room for mistakes or feeling good or feeling bad. I mean, I have an athlete of mine, Martina, from Poland. She's been working really, really hard, and she got a massive flu on Wednesday.
Oh man,
fever and cold chills. She still managed to qualify in Europe as a girl, so it's not easy. But you know, it's been very stressful. So I think that I think it's going to be a great event, because I think that there are 3 or 4 great names in our sports that are going to be competing there for the first time in a long time together, which are, Lazar, Björkvin, Yone, you know, the kings of Europe. And for one reason or the other one, they never compete together, 3 of them, because, you know, when there was a time where Iceland went to Spain and the other one was Berlin, and then when they were all together, Lazar wasn't there. So the 3 of them, I'm sure they're going to be in a frantic race to take the main spot. But there are new athletes coming and saying, "Oh, bro, I'm here too. Don't discount me, and I'm going to give these people value for their money."
I think there I think there are going to be some upsets, especially considering that the programming is going to be different than it has been in the past. I think there are going to be some upsets. I think there are going to be some people that throw the dice and make it a little bit harder for everybody else. So I don't think we're going to find anybody on day 2 kind of cruising their way through it.
No. Yeah, no. And also these 3 people that I mentioned, they are 3 very good endurance athletes. They are the typical great CrossFit Games athlete, you know, where you put them to swim, to run, to ski, to do biathlons, and they are great. But this close environment on a short time domain, I'm not sure how how that will turn. But it's going to be great, and I think that it's going to be a lot of, the girls. It's going to be
cutthroat.
The girls gonna be insane.
Yeah.
Girls are gonna be insane. I think it's gonna really come to the last workout for like maybe places like from 4th or 5th place on. Like you have no idea, and you have to watch the second heat also, because it's like, for now it's 10 athletes, but I don't know how many it's gonna be, but it's gonna be really, you basically have no idea until they announce it, I think.
You have great athletes, you have Laura and Gavi, you have I love Karin Frey. I think she's extraordinary. You have Annie. We learn never to discount Annie out of any equation, because the moment you count her out, she comes back and slap you on the face.
Yep.
So literally, but so it's fun. It's going to be fun.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna have to run now.
Yeah, me too.
As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Tim, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Yeah, that was a good surprise, wasn't it?
It's an amazing surprise. It's an amazing surprise.
Well, you just made my day here. Just made my day. Probably a couple of days, but I'll play it cool and say it was just today.
I'll text you later and tell you something, Matt.
Please do. Please do. All right.
We have to do this again. We have to do this again after the semis, maybe.
Whenever you want. If you ring Matt, I'll be there. Have a nice day.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.